Speaker number seven, Roger Bowman, Amelia Earhart.
In June of 1928, Amelia Earhart was the recipient of a fantastic ticker tape parade in downtown Manhattan, followed by a celebratory meeting with the President of the United States in the White House. Amelia had shot to fame as the first woman to cross the Atlantic as a passenger. Yes, that's right. She didn't fly the airplane. Two male pilots had. She was celebrated for merely riding in the airplane. And she later journaled that she felt what we come to know as imposter syndrome. And to alleviate that, she joined the 100 or so women that commonly weekly flew the air show and air races circuit around the country. But unfortunately, and I'm sorry to disillusion you, Amelia was a poor navigator and a really bad pilot. She tended to crash land a lot. She broke off her propellers. She damaged the wings of her aircraft. She sheared off her landing gear. She bounced in front of press and adoring fans. One promoter had her flying an aircraft across the country. She crashed and totaled it. They gave her another aircraft. She crashed and totaled that one too. When she was trying to buy a new airplane, the chief pilot for the manufacturer took her up in the air and gave her the controls and was so shocked at her poor flying skills that they refused to sell her the airplane. She even, in her final year, when she was doing the around the world tour, crash landed and sheared off the landing gear of the very Lockheed Electra that she was going to use to tour around the world before she even started the tour. She had to delay her tour a year while it got repaired. Her husband, who was her promoter, realized that he needed to stage manage her PR. So he had her shift to record setting, where she flew alone. And it didn't really matter how well she landed, as long as she landed, because the record is about something else. And she went on fearlessly to set distance records, altitude records. And yes, she ultimately flew across the Atlantic solo as the pilot. She was the second most famous pilot in America behind Charles Lindbergh. After her disappearance, her best friend eulogized, quote, "There were dozens of more skillful female pilots than Amelia, but forgotten is how Amelia substituted courage for competence to achieve fame." Yes, it was fame she was after, and fame she got through her and her husband. And what did she use it for? She used it for her passion. You see, other women flew a lot, and she didn't. She only flew those special events. She didn't get a lot of airtime. What she did was she did what we're doing tonight. She spoke. She spoke a lot. She was a really good speaker. She gave over 100 speeches each of the 9 years after her first ticker tape and up to her disappearance. In the fall of 1935, just in the fall, she gave 136 speeches. Tellingly, she drove from town to town rather than fly. And what does she speak on? Women's opportunity, women's equality, women's empowerment. At one speaking event, she was one of 4 speakers. The other 3 were the head of the Girl Scouts, the president of Purdue University, and First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt. The head of the Girl Scouts got up and told about how they were preparing young ladies to be good wives and competent mothers. Amelia rose and demanded to know why women could not be commercial airline pilots or otherwise fulfill their opportunities. So impressed was the president of Purdue University that he hired her and named her chief of the Department for Aeronautical Sciences for Women. Purdue University then funded her around the world trip. Now, her guiding principle, as she said herself, women should endeavor to do everything men have done, and occasionally things they have not. Her influence on the speaking circuit was substantial, and it manifested most directly when 4 years after her disappearance, we entered World War II, where because of her pushing and her leadership by example, America trained over 1,000 female pilots as fighter pilots and bomber pilots to test fly to its limits each and every one of the over 300,000 warplanes that we manufactured before those planes got sent into combat. Sometimes our heroes are imperfect, and yet perfect for a cause. Ameila Earhart was fearless. Crash after crash, she got back in airplanes. Unable to win races, she set records, mostly because her fame got her audiences and she could speak. That was her passion. That should have been her legacy. I'll close with a line from her most famous speech. When history records the times we live in, it will remember with supreme significance the physical, psychological, and social changes that women have undergone in these exciting decades. Mr. Toastmaster.